Hello again everyone and welcome back to the Tom Colohue channel, where today we are watching ourselves some WWE Smackdown. And what a WWE Smackdown is going to be. It's going to be loaded, it's going to be full, it's going to be built largely around Sasha Banks and maybe even a few surprise returns. Ronda Rousey will exclaim victory over Charlotte Flair and celebrate with a brand new challenger. Those previous two things may be related. And Roman Reigns and the Bloodline will celebrate being at the very top of the tree, the very top of SmackDown, the very top of everything. Roman Reigns is a top. You heard it here first. But if you're just joining us, for anyone who doesn't know, my name is Tom Colohue. I do Spoiler Warning, which is our weekly, well, several times weekly news show, and of course these SmackDown watch parties and pay-per-view watch parties. We have a nice new blue graphic, which Sai knocked up on the advice of Rob's earlier today, just on a whim, just on a whim. Just put this together with consummate ease, and that's just very, very exciting. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. Patrick Ballantyne is there saying, first time in a long time, I'm not excited for SmackDown. That's a shame. Hopefully, we find reasons to be excited as the show goes on. Sean says, hello again, Tom. And Larry says, hello everyone. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Not sure why, but we have what we have. And Larry says, it looks all new. I can't handle change. Sorry, mate. It's less colourful, but also more colourful. And there's this real sort of Sub-Zero, Virgil and Devil May Cry feel about this one. I think I like it even more, and I didn't realise that was a thing, that was an option. I just very much like the designs we have, very much so. Roman Reigns is the topic of choice. I do suspect he is going to be in the main event segment. He is there tonight, despite all the rumours about him never wrestling again or not turning up anywhere. He is there tonight to celebrate his victory. We are being shown a recap of the six-man tag main event from the main event of WrestleMania Backlash. I apologise for doubling that main event up. But we are being shown ourselves a recap, a celebration of Roman. Drew McIntyre, who will of course still be on SmackDown regularly going forwards, was just put down. He was eliminated. He was destroyed. He wasn't even, to be honest, shown to be much of a threat. So it is what it is. And what I will say is that it's a shame. I think it's a shame that Drew McIntyre is being put in his place so conclusively. That said, things can change. Cody Rhodes defeated Seth Rollins pretty handily several times, and yet still has not been put as the guy to just, win it all. We are opening with RK Bro, Randy Orton's music starting, as always. Now, Randy Orton is still very much a competitor for Roman Reigns. Matt Riddle is someone who's been mentioned and someone that Roman Reigns himself is trying to make happen. To be blunt, I wouldn't be too surprised if we had a Roman Reigns versus Matt Riddle match tonight. Moxie says, I've not been here in a long time. I like your new look. New look came in today, mate. New look came in today. So I totally get it. Simon says, no Bayley tonight. Save her for Money in the Bank. It's Raquel versus Ronda in a SmackDown Women's title match. I'm guessing then you've immediately launched a spoiler from what has been reported by Fightful. That'd be a shame. Patrick says, I want Randy Orton drafted to SmackDown. Well, to be fair, Patrick, you get the best of both worlds. He's currently on SmackDown. He just hasn't been drafted there. Moxie says, Roman versus Drew Hell in a Cell and Roman versus Orton Money in the Bank. I'm calling it. You go ahead, Moxie. You call it. It doesn't look like Roman is booked for Hell in a Cell. That said, 2 years ago when he took on Jey Uso in the Cell in the I Quit Hell in a Cell match, he wasn't booked for that one either. Not initially, until they realised just how well the feud with Jey Uso went and they decided to stick with it. Roman essentially changed the plan last minute. It says, ooh, blue spoiler warning graphics too. Yep, so I knocked this up in about 5 minutes because Rob suggested a blue one for SmackDown. I'm thrilled. I'm very happy with this. One thing I also was considering is using something like this for StreamYard, so thinner at the sides and maybe a bit closer in. People who are familiar with StreamYard and the streaming service that provides, will know that overlays for that are quite important. So I have quite a bit that I need to make work in that, but I think this is going to be very effective. I'm really not sure how real that Randy Orton chant is. Now, I know people are definitely chanting for him, but it's a very consistent Randy chant. Randy Orton basically is SmackDown now, let's be honest. Sean says, to follow up what I said about Vince Russo, he also said WWE made Sonya look stupid to have her be scared of Alexa. I don't get Vince Russo. He seems to just delight in complaining. Hey, Kura. How you doing? Fair enough, Simon. Thanks for letting us know. Bailey says, Wrestling Observer reporting this evening that Ric Flair is training to wrestle again. Who would hire him? No one. No one's going to hire him. He will die in that ring. It's not good. I did consider Megan saying control your narrative, but I thought even they would be insane to do so. Kuro says, Orton with an almost mustache looks weird. He goes through phases. I remember Randy Orton with the John Cena hair. Matt Riddle focusing on the loss, which is not a good thing in his regard. Matt Riddle has 7 senses. That's concerning. Patrick Ballantyne says Sean Ross Sapp is an... That's a rude word. He complains how bad the product is, yet he leaks everything. Let's go with hypocrite. In which case, I get what you're saying there, absolutely. That said, I also have a show literally called Spoiler Warning, so I can't say I don't share some spoilers. That said, I also don't complain the product's terrible. I don't think the product is terrible. Randy Orton still wants the Undisputed Championship. They are calling out Roman. Steve says, loving the SmackDown spoiler warning set. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. So I knocked this one up as well pretty quickly. Because ultimately it is just a recolor, but I'm loving how we've got like a fire and ice thing going on. Sami Zayn is playing blocker once again for Roman Reigns, getting in the way of RK. He's wearing a Bloodline t-shirt. He's wearing a Bloodline t-shirt, but it's not the most recent one. Sami Zayn is wearing a hand-me-down Bloodline t-shirt. Guys, you heard it here first. Sami Zayn is wearing a hand-me-down Bloodline t-shirt. Sami Zayn is wearing a hand-me-down Bloodline t-shirt. The commitment is magnificent. WWE, SmackDown, and, as there's a pay-per-view, a link to the YouTube. Simon says, what's going on between Hikaru Shida and AEW? They say she's injured, took out of the tournament to be replaced by Chris Statlander. Shida says she's not injured. Stardom. Well, I guess then AEW are kayfabing it. Kuro says Sammy is a dead man. Well, he's an RKO'd man, I'll tell you that. Thomas Phipps, welcome. Says, I can see a Roman versus Sammy feud, although I don't see it going very far. I think that's fair. I'd let them have just a match on SmackDown. I know they've been there before, but it'd be good for them. Once again, they're teasing the unification match. I think we're getting it at Hell in a Cell. It might be our main event. Sean says, I'm over Sammy as a heel. I want him babyface again. I don't think I'll ever be over Sammy as a heel. He's just too good at it. Megan says he looks less like Gwildor now, which is a shame. That's disappointed. There is a Sammy sucks chant from the crowd. Crowd are into it tonight, apparently. Credit to Sami Zayn, of course, for knowing when to shut up and let the crowd chant. It's an important skill. John Cena's got it in spades. If the crowd are chanting, you don't step on them. You just don't. Patrick says, I can't see Sami Zayn being a face again anymore unless something major happens. Same. I think he's done. I think he's reached his perfect element. Samoa and Sammy was good. The Rusty thing, that's not great, but it'll It'll stick. Simon says it just blew up right now on Twitter. People blasting the hell out of AEW's Tony Khan. They've been looking for an excuse to blast Tony Khan for a while now. A lot of people have. They certainly found it in the last few days, haven't they? Kuro says, is Riddle scripted at all? Because that felt like it wasn't. He's somewhat scripted. He's trusted with certain bullet points, but he does usually say, I'm going to go out there and say this. They work out what he's going to say between them and then leave him to ad-lib a little bit. Sami Zayn claiming credit for putting down Shinsuke Nakamura last week, and he did. Wasn't the most convincing win, but it was a win. Logically, tonight, we got RK Bro and Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn and the Usos. I think that's what Randy's moving towards. Blowing smoke up Sami's arse, which is proven to work. Simon says, imagine Sami Zayn as a Money in the Bank men's winner. He would be absolutely amazing, the perfect heel Money in the Bank winner. He would. He'd be very good in that role. But he'd 100% fail his cash-in. He would 100% fail it. Thomas says, what if Solo is the one to defeat Roman and the Usos side with Solo? Then even as the undisputed champion, Solo Sikoa becomes the third most important part of his own faction. I really do feel the guy needs to stand alone for at least a little bit without being known as the third most important Uso. Megan says, I think with Riddle, he's not able to remember a whole script verbatim, so they just give him bullet points. That also is basically what happens. He's given bullet points. They work out roughly what he's going to say. They remind him. Before he goes out the curtain, and he still kind of makes it up as he goes along. He doesn't try very hard. Sami Zayn versus Matt Riddle tonight. There was a start to a thank you Roman chant there that I very much enjoyed. We just got shown a camera of the ramp, but there's no one there. Oh look, it's Adam Pearce. He missed his cue. Simon says, Sami Zayn got away with the AW line a few years ago in 2019 on Raw. Yeah, because nobody really cared about it. He did clear the line, just so you know. He didn't get away with it. He told them he was going to say it, and they said, yeah, do it. Adam Pearce makes the match official. And it's going to be the first match on SmackDown. I do worry sometimes, like, how we're supposed to believe that a show gets booked on the fly and they don't have any matches actually lined up. When they start a SmackDown, it's like, we've got this many wrestlers, none of them are actually booked for anything. Let's see if anyone steps up to each other. Sean says, do you think WWE would give the Money in the Bank briefcase to someone that can afford to fail their cash-in? If they do, who wins it? They would absolutely do that. They've done that several times in the past. And yes, Sami Zayn would be perfect for that. Patrick says, Riddle's theme really ruins Randy's theme voices, in my opinion. I do agree. Randy's theme is iconic. I don't really like the fact that it's often being stepped on. But we are where we are. Simon says, if the WWE tread very carefully, they have a future star in Roxanne Perez. So young, but doing very good, impressive for her age. I agree. I'm a big fan of Roxanne, formerly Roxy, and I think she's got a lot to offer the WWE. I also thought that of Dakota Kai, so fingers crossed. Kuro says, Adam Pearce, please get into a ring again. He could go. He could absolutely go, I promise you that. Patrick says, Cora Jade is a future star of WWE as long as they don't release her. That's the issue we've got as much as anything nowadays. I mean, you can back people as much as you want, but it depends really if the WWE back them. Because if they don't, there's no point backing anyone. Megan says, Riddle's theme sounds like it should be the intro to a GTA game. I can actually hear it, and it is San Andreas. It's absolutely there. Moxie, consider yourself acknowledged. Hi Moxie, you are there and you exist and I believe in you. Sean says voices is one theme Def Rebel shouldn't touch. Well, they can't. They literally can't. If you change Randy Orton's theme now, they'll be uproar. Unless it's as good as the change to Edge's theme. Simon is excited for Sasha's match tonight. I think quite a few people are. Bailey says Cora got a great push by Natalya this week. It's a debatable point. Natalya certainly helped, and working with Natalya is a big help. It really does help to develop talent, because everyone who steps up to the main roster works with Natalya. So it's not a huge surprise to have that happen. That said, I think having it on NXT rather than the main roster, it's not the same. It really isn't. Hey Sergio, how you doing, mate? Kura says, so apparently half of AEW's TV market for Rampage tonight, even after moving Rampage because of the hockey games, can't see Rampage, are seeing hockey instead. Source, people complaining in mass numbers on Twitter. Thank you for that. That sucks and really does show that Rampage is being moved around and screwed over in so many ways. So many ways. Mox says, Tom, if Roman is taking 10 weeks off, won't you have to drop both titles at or before SummerSlam? No, primarily because he's not taking 10 weeks off. That is not something that's actually happening. There's debate as to how much he's going to be involved going forward, but he's certainly not missing SummerSlam. Patrick says they changed Rhea Ripley's theme. They did. Not quite the same as changing Randy Orton's, though. A bit less uproar. Megan says, I think Randy's theme will only change if and when Randy wants it to happen. Yep, absolutely. Again, very similar to what they've done with Edge. Edge wanted a change. He wanted the faction. He got it. He pitched the faction and pitched the change of character to work with it. Basically getting closer to Gangrel. Works for me. And we are off. Randy Orton still at ringside. I would be surprised if the Usos don't find somewhere to get involved here. Simon says Josh versus Eric Young for the Impact World Championship in the Slammiversary TNA Impact 20th Anniversary main event. True. Moxley says Roman loses the WWE title to Cody and Drew isn't winning the Universal title, so just Cody then. Cody can take both belts. That is a possibility. And Sergio says WWE should really look into making Montez Ford a top star. He has the charisma and in-ring skills. He does, but I do think it's still a little bit too early for Ford. Don't get me wrong, I think he's certainly got a hell of an upside and it's really worth celebrating. But I do think it's still a bit too soon to be throwing him in at that particular deep end. And make no mistakes, it is one hell of a deep end they would be putting him into. Megan says, I know there's more to Roman's schedule change, but have people forgotten Roman's battled cancer twice and is only 36? Great condition or not, that has to have taken its toll on him. It does. And I don't think anyone's particularly angry at Roman. I'm certainly not angry at Roman. You do what you got to do, man. You do what you got to do. I applaud anyone who's able to negotiate a limited date contract, because that means you get a chance to actually rest. Wrestling, not easy. Not easy at all. Exhausting in so many ways. Now, I've never even wrestled, but I've watched wrestling matches, and they seem grueling. Absolutely grueling. So I'll keep my distance, thank you. I completely understand if Roman needs a little time to refresh, to relax, or just wants to spend some time with his family. The guy doesn't get a lot of time off. I ain't mad. Pardon me. Sean says, does Tony D'Angelo beat Santos Escobar in NXT this week? Probably, yeah. Tony D'Angelo is someone that they've decided is the future. Santos Escobar, unfortunately, someone they've decided is kind of the past. Simon says, I still personally think Drew wins the Universal title at Clash in the Castle main event UK pay-per-view in Cardiff, Wales. Thank you. I think there's logic to that. And Moxie says, Edge to me is the best thing on Raw. I wouldn't be surprised if Edge wins the US or World Championship in the future. I hope he doesn't win a World Championship. I hope what happens here is that the championship wins go to Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. I'm hoping for something like Nation of Domination. Farouk competed for championships, never actually won much. Meanwhile, more importantly, The Rock was the guy getting built. The Rock was the guy being built with championships like the Intercontinental Championship. I'd rather Edge stay separate, personally. Patrick says, the only thing that bugs me with the whole Roman Reigns taking time off, he is still champion. Charlotte had to drop her title to get time off. She didn't. She absolutely didn't. She was going to drop her championship anyway. She was always going to lose the championship initially at WrestleMania. This was pushed back because of the request for time off and to provide some variation. That was the only reason it was pushed back. In the original plan, which would have been Sasha Banks versus Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks beat her for the championship. Charlotte Flair was always going to lose the title around this time. The crowd are definitely into this match between Sami Zayn and Matt Riddle. Randy Orton playing cheerleader at the side, but I think as much as anything, one, Matt Riddle's obviously very popular, but Sami Zayn's the perfect foil for someone like Matt Riddle. And this is honestly a great way to start a SmackDown. You've got two of the top stars at the moment. Now, admittedly, they're not the world champion sort of level stars, but in an opening match of SmackDown, you don't get much better than this outside of wheeling out the real big guns. And I'm happy with this particular opening match. At the very least, we're going to get a very fun match. Joey says, I like Tony D'Angelo, but Von Wagner comes off too generic and boring. Yeah, that isn't something I would personally be pushing. Just personally. Moxie says, imagine Edge wins the WWE Championship and Damian Priest turns babyface and beats Edge for it. I don't think Edge even needs to be involved in that. Just have Damian Priest beat Roman. Do it. Have Cody beat Roman for the WWE Championship. Have Damian Priest step up the next week. Have Edge say, no. I will beat Cody. Then have him lose. Have Damian Priest say, okay, now it's my turn. Edge says, no, I will beat Cody. And Edge loses again. Then the next week, straight after, finally, Damian Priest says, it's my turn. You've lost. And Edge says, no, I will beat Cody. And Damian Priest says, okay, beat me and we'll see if you can beat Cody. Damian Priest beats him, beats Cody, holds aloft the title, and his first feud, properly, is with Edge. That, for me, is Edge giving back to someone rising up the rung. Also, you create a top-level star, and Cody gets a few months of championship. Simon says, I'm so excited for Adam Cole versus Jeff Hardy on Dynamite next week. Owen Hart Tournament semi-final. Jeff Hardy's having a damn good run, I'll tell you that. Patrick says, I'll never understand what people see in Riddle. I can't stand this guy. I think he's a good wrestler. I'm not great on his promo style, like at all, but I think he's a good wrestler, and certainly his connection with Randy Orton has been a lot of fun to watch. Patrick also says, Edge doesn't need a championship. I agree. To be fair, neither does Roman. Sometimes the championship needs a wrestler more than the wrestler needs a championship. Sean says, I'm not much of a fan of Von Wagner, but I hope he doesn't fall victim to the Robert Stone curse. There were times when Robert Stone looked like a shoo-in to come up. For example, the most recent draft, Robert Stone seemed like an obvious choice to actually get the call up. He was being talked about backstage, it just never actually happened. Joey says, I love what WWE is doing with Edge's faction. I wish WWE utilised factions more often. Judging by what's happening on the opposite side of Judgment Day, as it were, with AJ Styles, Finn Balor, potentially Liv Morgan, I think we're going to see a couple more factions, and I'm very happy with that. And Simon says, I personally loved Riddle in Evolve on the Indies. And Moxie says, I think Survivor Series might be Rhea versus Ronda because I can see Rhea beating Bianca at the UK pay-per-view. So essentially, Moxie is saying something very similar to what I said earlier today in Spoiler Warning. And Megan says, something I'm wondering, how long do you reckon it will take for Clash at the Castle to sell out next week? I will give it an hour and a half. An hour and a half at most. If you're currently watching on YouTube, please do remember to hit that thumbs up. That like button can make a massive difference to the growth of the channel and the current viewership. And subscribe if you haven't already. It makes a big difference to the growth of the channel, big difference to views in general, and potentially my income going forwards, which allows me to make more content for you. And Simon says, Edge should just take some losses, put over young guys, make the next generation coming up like Braun Breaker. I agree. I genuinely agree, but he can also put people over in a faction, which I feel he's doing with Damian Priest and now Rhea Ripley. This is a way to put over the next generation. It's just taken him a while to get there. Sean says, will our current mid-card champions still be champions by Survivor Series? The US champion maybe, in Austin Theory. I wouldn't necessarily say the Intercontinental Championship. Megan says, I'm reckoning a couple of hours as well. I'm intrigued to see the prices. It will be no consequence. But yeah, it'll be interesting. And Joey says, Bron Breakker will be a big deal on the main roster. Everyone seems to be high on him. Absolutely. Absolutely. He is going to be a big deal. He's going to get a strong push out the gate. I'm very excited to see where he goes. Megan, can I ask how many followers you now have? Because I know you've been celebrating getting closer to affiliate status here on Twitch. So can I ask, firstly, put yourself over a little bit. But secondly, how many right now followers do you have on Twitch? Matt Riddle is in the midst of his comeback. Sami Zayn taking a firm beating. Oh, lovely catch there. Lovely catch by Sami Zayn. Orton continues to hype up the crowd. Matt Riddle with the patented Randy Orton power slam. Sami rolls out, ready for the draping DDT. This seems like we're building to a finish. Patrick says Triple H made Randy Orton and Batista in Evolution. He did. He absolutely did. Though admittedly he was champion during. Simon says Liverpool's Champions League final tickets are £500, very scandalous, ridiculous, very high price in Paris. Yep. Champions League final, isn't it? Sean says, just asking, did Ilya beat Jordan? Yes, he did. Ilya Dragunov remains the champion. John says, how much are you expecting the prices for tickets to be for Clash of the Castle? Anywhere between £40 and £4,000. You never can tell. Ooh, Megan, 46. So you need 4 more, and you're within range of affiliate on the follower section at least. That's pretty close. You play games and prattle on a bit. Let people know what games you've been playing, Megan. Joey says, I wonder why a lot of NXT UK talent are moving over to NXT US. Because they keep firing people in NXT proper. So they need to rebuild it. NXT UK talent's right there. And it's really, really, really cheap. I cannot begin to describe how cheap NXT UK talent is. Riddle beating Sami Zayn with his actual finisher. It's been a while since we've seen his actual finisher. And just like that, we have ourselves a championship unification match. RK Bro and the Usos. Very probably for Hell in a Cell. The match wasn't cancelled. It was just pushed back. Just pushed back. Patrick says, Tom, you called Randy's slam a power slam. Jimmy Smith calls it a body slam. Yeah, he probably shouldn't. Roman Reigns is backstage shaking his head. Not happy with Sami Zayn. The Usos also there. They have business to attend to now. If we're going to get to Undisputed Bloodline. Sean says, is Mandy someone they would push when she comes back up? Yep, definitely. They're very happy with what she's done in NXT. Bailey says this was a really good match for the first 25 minutes. It was. As an opening to SmackDown, we've been strong. Our unification match will essentially be the Bloodline match for Hell in a Cell. That's the main reason Roman's not going to be on the show, for kayfabe reasons. Seems like Roman is planning for the Usos to make their attack. We're getting an update on Charlotte Flair. Ronda Rousey is up next. We're not waiting for a draw segment. Ronda Rousey is up next. Looks like we're going to have half-hour draw segments all over again, and I'm okay with that. Megan says, I've mostly been playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition, Stardew Valley, and The Sims 4. 2 Point Hospital was also part of the rotation, but I'm giving that a rest for now. So if anyone is interested in games like that, Megan is only looking for 4 more followers before she can start to look at affiliate status. Joey says, I think Jordan Devlin is the next guy to move over after his loss to Ilya. Probably, yep. Once again, very, very cheap. Very cheap. Patrick says Ginny should be called up to the main roster and be paired with Gunther and Ludwig. Why? That does not work for me in any way, shape or form. Why is that? Simon asked, did you see the Y2J Appreciation Society segment with the BFCC? It was an awesome segment. They're setting up the BFFCC LAX versus Y2J Ace Society in the next upcoming Blood and Guts match in the very near future. Sounds fun. Didn't see it. Might see Blood and Guts. Jermaine says, and you can tell that WWE really loves Sami Zayn. He's in a really good position. I can see him capturing the IC title again in the future. Me too. Definitely expect that. Definitely expect that. Sean says, did something happen to Dolph Ziggler? We haven't seen him since he dropped the belt to Braun. Possible no plans. Yeah, he's just taking a break. No plans for Dirty Dogs at the moment. Megan says, isn't Ginny Gunter's partner in real life? Sean says, Ginny is dating Gunther. Patrick says, Ginny and Gunther are dating. I think they'd be a good pair. On screen, no. Their characters don't gel at all. At all. So, you don't always need to be paired up with someone you're, like, in a relationship with. In fact, sometimes it's a bad thing to link up like that. I don't think Ginny works with Gunther at the moment as he is in any way, shape or form. Moxie said, wouldn't be surprised if Drew comes out and beats down Roman and the Usos. Drew McIntyre is in a very difficult position right now. Drew McIntyre lost. He lost. And lost pretty badly at the WrestleMania Backlash pay-per-view. It's going to take him a while to actually recover from the beating he took. He needs to show up, he needs to show out. There are ways to do that. There are ways to recover. I just don't know if he's in a position to actually recover as of yet. Have to wait and see on that. We cross our fingers and we very much hope that there is enough there to keep people interested. Thank you very much, Moxie, for the 200 bits over on Twitch. I very much appreciate that. Especially right now with YouTube monetization shut down, Twitch is one of my only sources of income, so thank you very kindly for that generous donation. Megan says, Ginny with night model management, however, would work. That I agree with wholeheartedly. That would be perfect. Absolutely perfect. Sean says, do you think Britt Baker would have worked with Undisputed Era? Maybe. I don't think so. Like, she's got an ego, but she doesn't have that ego. You know, she doesn't seem to be always laughing at people and just never perceive a threat. That's what I see with Britt Baker. Patrick says, I do believe Ginny should be moved to 2.0 though. Possibly, yeah, that makes sense. Though there is still a bit of a logjam of women in NXT, where they need to actually move some people up to the main roster to make room for NXT UK talent. Jermaine says, I think Sasha and Naomi versus Natalya Shayna at the 9 o'clock draw segment. That would make sense. I mean, after all, it is Sasha Banks. It's also possible, given what's been happening recently, that what will actually happen is Baron Corbin. Good old Baron Corbin. Chad says, I bet 75% Charlotte going to come out and say, I'm over it. If you all want to see me, you can catch me on Wednesday and Friday nights. Thank you very kindly, Moxie, for more bits. More bits. Another 100. Thank you very much for sharing. I'm going to shrink my alert box ever so slightly more, because that was quite large. Hopefully that's going to work brilliantly now. But thank you kindly for the 300 bits. Now, if anyone isn't already aware, we have something on Twitch called a hype train. Hype trains happen when 3 separate individuals in the span of 5 minutes either subscribe, gift a sub, or donate 100 bits. So, for example, if 2 other people now donated 100 bits, we would be having ourselves a hype train. I'm not saying we should do that, just explaining the process. Hype trains basically ensure that you're on the front page more, that more people can find you, and it ensures a much faster growth for the channel. Megan says, for affiliate, I need at least 4 more followers, and to get my average viewer count up to 3, and it is currently at 1.8. The thing is though, Megan, getting free viewers isn't all that difficult. For example, if you speak to me and Ed and have a regular schedule, there's your free. 2 and then yourself in a separate tab. There's your free. So there are ways to do it. Shinsuke Nakamura is backstage in a glorious suit and tie, celebrating Sami Zayn's loss. Roman is the head of the table, but Sami is the table's ass. Pat McAfee already starts singing Shinsuke's theme. Simon says, Regal/Y2J having a face-to-face confrontation next week on AEW Dynamite. Tom, remember the classic Jericho P in his teeth segment in their Mania 17 IC title feud in 2001? I do. Hopefully they do better this time. Sean says, Force on Alba Fire debut. Has that happened? Did that happen on Raw? Did I miss something? Thank you, Moxie. I appreciate that. Patrick says, I believe Britt Baker will never work with WWE. Yeah, probably. Not everyone will. Also, to be blunt, WWE not that interested in Britt Baker. Sean is saying, boo Ronda. Fans in attendance don't seem to agree. Fair enough, Megan. If at any point you need to reach out, by all means, I'm right here if you want to talk. On NXT this week. But it's not a debut, though. She's been wrestling on NXT for ages. I don't know what to say to that, to be honest. We have ourselves a recap, once again, from WrestleMania Backlash of Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. Their highlight reel, as it were. Lots of just massive O face from Charlotte, just going, oh. Bailey says, Britt Baker on WWE would be at Carmella Zelina level. It entirely depends. It's very much down to what the WWE chooses to do with her. I don't think she can push that strong. I don't. To my knowledge, the WWE not very interested in Britt Baker. That's it. When it comes to AEW, they're mostly interested in people they've already had. They would love to get Tony Storm back, for example. Sean says, Britt Baker was in WWE once. She was squashed by Nia Jax. Yeah, but that was before she was, the Britt Baker that we know. Very different situation. I remember seeing the fear in Scarlett Bordeaux's eyes as she was destroyed by Nia Jax. But once again, that's back in 2016. Big difference in 6 years. It's a long recap. By the time we actually get to Ronda Rousey, she might be in the draw segment. Patrick says, if what I heard is true, and Moxley and MJF could be leaving AEW, be big gets for WWE. WWE will throw every penny they possibly can at the two of them. May have already done so at Moxley, but let's keep that quiet on the down low. But yeah, I can confirm that there is massive interest in those two from the WWE. Ronda Rousey literally just stood in the ring waiting for that hype package and recap package to finish. I feel it must be really awkward for the wrestlers. If you're at a live show, they literally just stand there. There are definitely some unhappy voices getting through while Ronda is speaking. There's a boo there, there's a boo. This is not a confident promo from Ronda. Simon says, I personally love Tay Conti since her NXT days. AEW, very proud of her. Her first major mixed tag team championship title win with Sami in AAA. She's come on leaps and bounds. Ronda is also sticking with the SmackDown championship title. Joey says, why did NXT repackage Kaylee Ray? Good question. No idea. Sean says, I guess I still dislike Ronda because of what happened between her and Alexa with the injury. Not just Alexa. There was a number of injuries. Raquel Rodriguez, with a massive smile, is stepping up to the Ronda Rousey challenge. Now, I don't think she has any chance of winning here, let's be honest. Jesus Christ, stop grinning. Stop grinning. Stop grinning. Stop grinning. Stop it. It's scary. But this is one of those where, even in defeat, you're kind of announcing yourself on the big stage. A match with Ronda Rousey, pretty good place to be. If Rousey's genuinely going to be the fighting champion, as it were, then she's going to be working through people like Xia Li, Shotzi. Could be a fun month. Do you have to roll everything? Ilo Aceto, and I accept. Oh no, what? Why do you say it Spanish and then just immediately translate it? I was ready to translate. Yeah, you won't actually translate any of the difficult Spanish. They just hit her music again and said it's next. We just had a commercial. We haven't had a commercial break, we had a recap package. Feels like the same thing. Sean says Raquel isn't winning. No chance. Absolutely no chance. Patrick says Ronda is awful, and Bailey says Ronda needs a manager. She does not have good mic work. That is true. Her mic work could definitely use work. But as much as anything else, she's working through a speech impediment that she's had basically since birth. So I can't hate on it too much. Simon says, I personally think Toni Storm doesn't want to never ever go back to the WWE, since she's clearly enjoying her post-WWE career in AEW, her only fan account, making big bucks. Yeah, I never said Toni Storm was interested in going back to the WWE. I said WWE is interested in Toni Storm. Doesn't change anything. Doesn't change anything at all. Patrick says, Ronda has injured a lot of people. She ruined the women's division on Raw. Now she'll do the same on SmackDown. I mean, the Raw women's division seems to be doing okay. Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Asuka, Becky Lynch seems to be doing fine. Certainly, it took damage at the time, but it recovered pretty quickly afterwards with the Becky Lynch championship reign, which actually lasted longer than the Ronda Rousey championship reign. Let's not forget, Ronda Rousey held the championship from SummerSlam until WrestleMania. Now, admittedly, she was a champion briefly beforehand, but that at least meant that Alexa Bliss got a chance to get one over. She had a few matches with Nia Jax and the like. She wasn't the champion the whole time. Whereas Becky Lynch was the champion for 13 months in a row. Did Becky Lynch ruin Raw? Patrick says, if WWE are interested in Toni Storm, why did they release her in the first place? Because she refused to work. She said, I'm leaving, and if you don't let me leave, I'm just going to sit at home. It wasn't a case that, oh, get out. Now, admittedly, she got a lot of blame for the feud with Charlotte Flair not being very good. She did get a lot of blame for that. That's one of the reasons she wanted to leave. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the blame is entirely on WWE here. They didn't want her to go. They wanted to push her. They just didn't feel it was really working. Sean says, possible Alexa-Lacey feud now that both are on Raw. Possible, yes. Alexa and Bianca are on a collision course at the moment. Lacey Evans, I feel, may get first dibs at Bianca Belair, though. Bianca needs people to feud with more. I don't necessarily feel we're going to go straight to SummerSlam, where it will be Bianca versus Becky Lynch in the rematch. I think there may be a few more people involved first. We are 45 minutes into SmackDown. So far, so good. I enjoyed the opening match quite a lot. We're certainly getting a different match right now. It's new, it's unique, and it looks like it's going to go into our draw segment ever so slightly. Just basically banking on Ronda Rousey. It also means, of course, that we're heading for 2 women's matches tonight, and both of them being championship matches. A SmackDown Women's Championship match and a Tag Team Championship match. So the women have been quite well represented tonight. Sean says if they wanted to push Tony, could they have turned her heel or sent her to Raw? They'd have had to wait for a draft, and she didn't want to go. She wanted to leave the company. She just wanted to leave. She'd barely been on SmackDown when they actually let her go. They didn't do enough with her, that's true. And there may have been plans to move her in the draft, but that didn't actually pan out. Simon, I never said Tony was to blame. Never said she was. But I did say she caught a lot of the blame from WWE. Different situation. Omega, welcome, mate. Says a match for the SmackDown Championship title. Yeah, she's given up on gendering it. I don't hate it, but it's more that she started doing this because she messed up one of her lines, and she just rolling with it at this point. Just refusing to admit she did anything wrong. Ronda Rousey, by the way, likes to wrestle people bigger than her. That's why she enjoyed working Charlotte Flair. It's why she really enjoyed working against Nia Jax. It's amazing how WWE haven't missed Nia Jax at all. Like, not in the slightest. Ronda quite likes being thrown around. Now, at this point, she needs to be putting over Rodriguez because this is the potential breakout for Rodriguez. This essentially needs to go well because it's going to be launching her career on SmackDown on the main roster. Particularly given that she's basically got no chance of winning, she needs a good showing here, so Ronda needs to ensure that she gets a good showing. That said, she does need to stop grinning at every spot. Someone has told her to smile and it's really awkward. It's really awkward. I'm going to tweet that. Someone has told Raquel Rodriguez to never stop smiling. And it is very unnerving. Ronda Rousey is being tossed all over the place. She's selling very well in her face. The facial expression, there's fear there, and that's a good thing. I don't think they get more than, say, 15 minutes here. Typically in this situation, they'll come close to the draw segment, but won't actually go into it. So I'd imagine Raquel Rodriguez is dominant for maybe 5 minutes. Rousey comes back. Match ends after 7. Moxie says Bianca versus Lacey at Hell in a Cell, Bianca versus Alexa, Money in the Bank, Bianca versus Becky at SummerSlam, Bianca versus Rhea at the UK pay-per-view, where Bianca loses the title. You say that knowing full well that that's not how WWE do things. More likely, if that happens, it'll be Bianca versus Lacey at Hell in a Cell, Bianca versus Lacey at Money in the Bank, Bianca versus Alexa at SummerSlam, Bianca versus Alexa at the UK pay-per-view, Bianca versus Alexa at an October pay-per-view, and then Bianca versus Ronda Survivor Series. Then Bianca versus Becky in December. Bianca versus Becky again at Royal Rumble. Bianca versus Becky again in February. Before eventually getting to a new challenger at maybe Liv Morgan at WrestleMania. That unfortunately is how the WWE do things. Patrick says Doudrop is a better Nia Jax. I see why people say that. I do think Doudrop needs to be sort of respected on an individual basis. But I do see why people say that. Sean says, since he said Judgment Day is meant for Aleister Black, who would have been in his faction and would it have been called House of Black? They were definitely looking at Buddy Murphy as it ended up happening in AEW. There was a couple more, but it was a lower down the rung, as it were, faction. The first feud would have been in some combination of a New Day reunion as well. Megan says, I can't shake the feeling that WWE is only showcasing the women as they are now to stick 2 fingers up at AEW for quite obvious reasons. Yeah, fair. I think as much as anything they're trying to say, yeah, we know there's not many people in the SmackDown Women's division, but it's okay. It's okay. And if Raquel Rodriguez is going to be working against the shot season Xia Lee's, this is a good start because it actually gets eyes on her. We know she's going to be feuding with Natalya. She's always going to have at least one feud with Natalya. But let's start her off hot. She's overdoing it slightly. I feel she looks a bit green still. But all in all, Ronda Rousey's selling for her. She's looking like a powerhouse. She's selling okay. Bit too much staggering around for me. Go down. Just go down. Ronda wants you to go down. Go down. They are very much treating this like a Nia Jax match. Simon says, wonder what Drew is doing tonight. Good question. I'd imagine it'll be something that at least starts backstage. But I'm not sure how well it's going to build. Drew McIntyre really doesn't have a leg to stand on if he thinks he can step up to Roman Reigns going forwards. That was not a good move on Ronda. Dropped her at the real wrong time. Patrick says Raquel needs to be a heel. She isn't a likeable babyface. She's fairly new to being the babyface. I wouldn't say she needs to be a heel. I stand by Ronda needs to be the heel, let's be honest. Omega says odds that Raquel walks out the new SmackDown Championship title champion. Gonna go with 0. Gonna go with a very firm 0. Very firm 0. Simon says Amanda Pena, the UFC's women's bantamweight women's champion. The women's bantamweight women's champion. Has called out Ronda Rousey for a future fight. Yeah, because she knows how to make people pay attention. Ronda's not going to care. Simon says Doudrop stepped up very nicely into the Nia Jax role. Yeah, kind of. Nia Jax was pushed a lot more heavily. Also, people genuinely hated Nia Jax. She was a top-level heel. We have reached the 5-minute mark with Raquel Rodriguez still being absolutely dominant. Now's the time for Ronda Rousey to start coming back. Patrick suggests Zelina Vega would have been in Alistair's group. Would she, or are you just saying that because they're partners in real life? Would she have fit in Aleister Black's group? Oh, that's even worse. Ronda Rousey gets battered for 5 minutes and then wins in a roll-up. I mean, the whole point was to put over Raquel Rodriguez, but that was not fun. It's very obvious what WWE was trying to do there. Yep, absolutely right, Simon. Fighters want to fight fighters, but they want to fight the most well-known fighters, because then they can make more money. As Megan says, there's more chance of me winning the title right now. Yeah. Joey says they're already burying Raquel. That's not even close to true. She spent the last 5 minutes beating the crap out of Ronda Rousey and then lost to a roll-up. There is no way in which that's a burial. So she lost a match against the current champion, Ronda Rousey. There's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, that's the NXT way. That's always been the NXT way. I always find it hilarious how so many people claim to love NXT, and yet when someone loses their first match on a call-up, they're like, oh god, they're getting buried. They're not. You start at the bottom. It's that simple. You start at the bottom. It shouldn't be difficult. She's exactly where she needs to be to build towards the future. Exactly where she needs to be. Shotzi now looking for a championship opportunity. I imagine that'll be next week. Aaliyah wants a shot. As I say, it could be a very good month. Megan says the roll-up is the most devastating move in all of professional wrestling. You are correct. Sean says I think Shotzi is underrated. She's a good wrestler in my opinion. No, I agree. I think everyone on the WWE main roster is a good wrestler. I absolutely do think she is. But so is everyone else. That's the issue. We are indeed having a Madcap Moss and Baron Corbin segment for the draw segment. Again, brave. Brave of the WWE. Up next, Madcap has the last laugh. It's not going to be good, is it? Patrick says Aaliyah looking great as always. Yep, she's there to pick a fight. Moxie says this SmackDown has been really good so far. I agree. Off to a really good start. Let's do a tweet. In the middle of the show, let's do as a tweet. So, Ronda versus Shotzi. Ronda versus Aaliyah. Ronda versus Natalya. Ronda versus Xia Li. Ronda versus Shayna. I can't really think of anyone else. There are plenty of options for challenges for Ronda Rousey before we get to the big name. Could be a good month. I'll leave it there. I know people hate Ronda Rousey, so I can't overplay it, can I? Can certainly underplay it. Some people don't realise that I'm a Ronda Rousey fan. I think she does good work. I don't hate her like so many others do. Yes, Omega. Nixon Newell. Always Nixon Newell. Spot on. Hector says WWE always backing themselves into a corner. Instead of continuing to build Raquel through her Ronda, I'd rather have her face anyone else. Ronda and Raquel had pay-per-view written all over it in my opinion. I disagree. Raquel's not established enough for pay-per-view. She's just started. Now, if you threw someone else, she'd be facing off against, say, Shotzi, and people would be saying Shotzi's getting buried. Someone's got to lose in wrestling. Someone's got to lose. Simon says, who do you see as AEW World Champion after MJF, Tom? Personally, I think Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, the next in line after Hangman, MJF. I think after MJF, we are likely to see either a Bryan Danielson or an Adam Cole, to be completely honest. I think that would be the best feuds with MJF, and I think that's just the right time. I think Adam Cole makes the most sense personally because he could immediately go into a feud with Kenny Omega, which Kenny Omega naturally would lose to put him over. And that just makes the most sense to me. Moxie says we still have Roman, Butch, Sasha, maybe Aaliyah versus Shotzi, and maybe Volta. I'm calling him Volta, not Gunther. We do, and that's of course before you consider the possibility that we're going to see more Roman Reigns and the Usos. Sean says, who do you think takes the belt from Bron Breakker? Will it be Gacy or someone else? I don't think it'll be Gacy. I don't necessarily know who it's going to be. I'd love it if it was Escobar. That's what I'd like personally. Patrick says, Aaliyah is underrated, works hard and people don't appreciate her hard work to finally make it to the main roster. Always been a fan of hers. She's done well since she came up, but she hasn't done anything memorable. She hasn't. Like, she was on the Survivor Series team. Hell, if I can remember. I remember her being put on the team. Last thing I remember of her. There is more that she can do, I feel. But there is certainly more that the WWE can do in order to get her into more prominent positions. And I think that does need to be factored in. Tonight, the Usos strike back. We do have a hell of a second hour coming up. Looks like Madcap Moss is going to be formally interviewed. If you're currently watching on YouTube, please do remember to hit that thumbs up. That like button can make a massive difference to the growth of the channel, and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, as regards the growth of the channel, we did gain a couple of subscribers in the show earlier today. 2 more subscribers, taking us up to 1,107, which is now showing us 1.11k. That is very close to where Sportskeeda were when I first started there, and I got them to 10,000 within a year. So I'm feeling pretty good right now about my chances when it comes to the growth of the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do consider it. But spoiler warning is starting to pick up pace again. Earlier today we had a peak viewership of 39, which I was just very, very happy with. Very, very happy with. There are times we've got up to 52, 53, that's been our records. But recently there's also been times we've been down at 23, 24. So I'm very happy with the growth of the channel. And I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who still drops in, says hi, and helps us grow. Megan says, with Aaliyah, Shotzi and Xia, that's enough to take Ronda to the go-home show for Hell in a Cell. So she could take that show off before starting a feud with maybe Natty or hopefully Shayna, heading into Money in the Bank. Absolutely. Makes perfect sense to me. That absolutely makes sense. There's enough to keep her going for a few weeks before we even start considering rematches. And then you just have Raquel Rodriguez come back and say, I'd like another shot. You beat me with a roll-up. It was early in my time here on SmackDown. I'd like to go again. At which point she goes again. Moxie says, I think Shayna is winning Money in the Bank. That could work. I'd be very happy with that. Hector says, Tom, did you see the Observer is reporting that Ric Flair is training for an in-ring return? Why just? Because it's Ric Flair. He will never give up on wrestling, despite the fact that nobody wants him to wrestle. Nobody wants him to wrestle, but he will never give up. Jermaine says, Madcap Moss's ring gear doesn't make sense. Has a belt on his shorts, but yet he's also wearing suspenders. Just doesn't make sense, and I just now realised it for the first time. You're never going to be able to unsee it now, Jermaine. You will never be able to unsee it. We are seeing another recap from WrestleMania Backlash. This time of the match between Madcap Moss and Baron Corbin. Which wasn't the greatest match, admittedly, but also wasn't a bad match. And considering who it is, it's Baron Corbin and Madcap Moss, they're very much doing the best they can with what they've got. I gotta credit them for it. Bailey says, why do you think they moved Lacey Evans? Honestly, I'm really not sure. I don't understand the need to move Lacey Evans. I think Lacey Evans was fine where she was. But yeah, it looks like what they've done is just try to make sure that Raquel Rodriguez and Lacey Evans are kept separate, so they have two separate tanks. It's two separate big-ass tanks. Patrick says, do you see Charlotte coming back to her third match with Ronda Rousey? Yeah. Yeah, I see that happening a lot. Happens all the time in the WWE. But I don't think it will be immediate. Much like, for example, Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. They had the first match. They had a 4-month break to the second match. And then they were going to have the third match way later. They haven't had it yet. Sean says, your thoughts on the 5 women Sportskeeda said could face Alexa at Hell in a Cell. These women are Sonya, Zelina, Carmella, Nikki, Ash, or Lacey. Which one do you think is likely? None of them. None of them. I don't think any of them is likely. I don't think Alexa Bliss is going to be on the pay-per-view. I think the focus is going to be on Becky Lynch and Asuka. That's what I think the focus is going to be. Megan says it's also not taken into consideration a couple of call-ups to bolster the roster. I'd love to see Io, Indy, maybe Wendy Chu appear soon. There's no reason they can't do a soft call-up. So, for example, bring up Kaylee Ray just for 1 week. Just to take on Ronda Rousey, lose, and then go back to NXT again. It's good for NXT. And Sean says they turned Lacey heel for no apparent reason. We don't know what the reason is. There might genuinely be one. We're just not there yet. Kayla Braxton with a little yelp as she saw Baron Corbin appear. Corbin taking the opportunity to beat the hell out of Madcap Moss with a chair. Looks like they're going to get a rematch at Hell in a Cell. Maybe this will be in Hell in a Cell. Don't you want this in Hell in a Cell? Corbin's got his eye on the trophy, a trophy that he himself has held. Is he going to steal it or just try and break it? Moxie says, I would love to see Shayna win Money in the Bank, cash in on Bianca the Raw after SummerSlam, then they build Shayna up like they did in NXT. We get a dream match, Ronda versus Shayna at Survivor Series. Could be fun. I'd absolutely be behind that. That'd work for me. Jermaine says, Tom, Ali was originally on the SmackDown women's team for Survivor Series but was replaced by Sonya Deville. In her replacement, Toni Storm took her spot on the team. Well, that explains why I can't remember. That explains it. Baron Corbin using the trophy to slam the chair down on Madcap Moss's neck. These guys are definitely having another match in Hell in a Cell. Megan says Wendy Chu would be hilarious in Money in the Bank. True. Patrick said I don't want Alexa near the title picture to give her feuds with Doudrop, Sonya Deville, Liv Morgan and others. She will eventually get back to the title picture. She, after all, has not been very close to the championship for a number of years now. She's had a handful of championship opportunities since 2018. I would say is it 2018, 2019? 2018. When she lost it to Ronda, that was her last championship reign. That was SummerSlam 2018, if I recall correctly. So she will be returning to the championship picture roughly sooner rather than later. Very much competing against Bianca. As I say, collision course there. Sean says, everyone ready for Indy Hartwell as DLC for 2K22 coming on Tuesday? There's a bit more DLC, right? It's not just a one wrestler. Patrick says Alexa was WWE Women's Tag Team Champion in 2019 and 2020. Yeah, but that's a very different thing. They didn't have any tag teams, so it's a very good thing that she was at least willing to get in the tag team division. When she and Nikki Cross were tag team champions, they were on TV every week. Every week. We had the Kabuki Warriors wrestling against them. There was some good stuff happening. Patrick says Aaliyah had a decent feud with Natalya. Aaliyah had a feud with Natalya. It was all about the Guinness Book of World Records. I'm not going to say it's a good feud. Hector says, with Money in the Bank coming back, I still can't forget the Money in the Bank from Titan Towers. Honestly, was one of the most fun and creative Money in the Bank matches to date. Both men and women over the notice. Everything was great. I liked Otis. Otis did a good job there. But yeah, it was really creative. I really enjoyed it. And I wish we had something like that again. Megan confirms it was SummerSlam 2018, and that was her last singles title. And that was after a Money in the Bank cash-in, after all. It's been a while since Alexa Bliss has been in the championship picture. She has had a couple of championship opportunities, one in a handicap match against Bayley, one, of course, before she left against Charlotte. But she's never looked like anything close. Never looked anything close to the actual championship. Pardon me. Moxie says, I think AJ and Asuka should have won Money in the Bank in 2020. Right, so, what, you want AJ to have a 2-week championship reign and then just get beaten up by Bobby Lashley? Kuro says the Aaliyah Natalya feud was a world record feud. It wasn't good. There will be no convincing me otherwise. It was not good. It was not good at all. I get that it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but I'm not there for it. I'm not there for it at all. We are heading into our second hour proper from here. We have a Women's Tag Team Championship match. We have something with the Usos and the Bloodline. What else? I don't know. There's still a few people we should be expecting to see who haven't made an appearance yet. Drew McIntyre, for example. But we're waiting for more. Patrick says at least it got Aaliyah on TV. At least Raquel Rodriguez got to be on TV in that match with Ronda Rousey. Can't have it both ways, mate. Can't have it both ways. Speaking of, where's Drew Gulak? He got beat up a lot recently, but at least I got him on TV. I wasn't sure how people felt about that, so I did a Twitter poll, and yeah, people are just happy he's on TV. I'm okay with that then. Sean says, I wish fans would quit thinking wrestlers have say in their booking, like with Alexa, for example, or Roman. Or Charlotte, Sean. Or Charlotte. It's not their call if they win or lose matches. I'm sure if they had said Alexa wouldn't have lost to Ronda in 2018. I'd imagine there's more there, Sean. But yeah, or Charlotte. Or in fact, Ronda. Ronda didn't choose her booking. Kuro says, and by that I mean it set a world record for amount of people who gave a damn about world records. Fair. You guys do know that you paid for Guinness World Records, right? If you want to be in the Guinness World Records, you say, I have a record for this. You hand over money, and then you have the record for that. Moxie says, if AJ won it in 2020, he could have cashed in around TLC time. AJ did wrestle Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship at TLC. He did. And lost it to Bobby at Mania. That would have really hurt Drew McIntyre. So, not sure on that. Also, we then wouldn't have had AJ and Omos, which means we probably wouldn't have had RK Bro. Sean says, I still think it was stupid to give Miz back the Money in the Bank briefcase after he failed his cash in at TLC against Drew and AJ. Yeah, that absolutely was. That was absolutely dumb. They essentially just changed their minds when they realised that they needed him to transition the championship to Bobby Lashley. The Mospital. Bad work from Baron Corbin. Also, to be clear, you're not allowed to say hospital, which is why I said mospital. You're supposed to say local medical facility. The Moss tittle, Baron Corbin says. Because in the WWE, you're not allowed to say the word hospital. I think that's funny. So we have our second championship match, and this one, another women's championship match, this time the women's tag team championships. Shayna Baszler and Natalya don't get an entire jobber's entrance, but get a bit of a jobber's entrance. Just a bit of one. Megan says the last time Alexa challenged for the Raw Women's title was last September at Extreme Rules, and that is in fact just before she started her time off. Hector says, Tom, do you have a favourite cash-in? Personally, I really like when Edge cashed in on Cena at New Year's Revolution at 06. Seth. No question for me. Seth Rollins cash-in is by far the best one in my opinion. Patrick does agree, rather see them on TV rather than sitting in catering, which I think is fair. Curry says, I can legitimately claim the record for spending the most money on buying Guinness records. No, that unfortunately would be Kim Jong-un. Look it up. The guy spent a lot of money on Guinness World Records. As Alexa says, that match was also Alexa's last match before she faced Sonya this week. At that point, they were essentially transitioning back into championship mode Alexa. As I say, she will be coming up against Bianca Belair sooner rather than later. Bayley says Dolph Ziggler's cash-in was underrated. Was it? It's generally considered to be one of, if not the best cash-in of any cash-in. I don't think it's underrated when something is like genuinely held in high regard. I don't think there's many people who don't rate that cash-in personally. I don't know. Does anyone here think that's a bad cash-in? Fair, Sean. Fair. We did forget the chamber match, which technically was also a title match. She wasn't planned to be in it initially, but she was in it. Right, we have ourselves a Women's Tag Team Championship match. Naomi starts against Shayna Baszler. Baszler walks straight into a headlock. Not her finest moment. Not her finest moment. Patrick says Dolph Ziggler was at his best in 2014 when he was world champion. I wasn't really watching at the time, to be completely honest. And Bayley says, I just think Dolph tends to get forgotten amongst past champions. He does. He wasn't a great champion. When he picked up his injury, it was a very short feud. He didn't get given much to do with it. The cash-in, though, is still very highly regarded. Sasha Banks tagged in. Kura says, this is where we see a turn in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be this soon, Kura, but let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. I did not realise that, Megan. Chambers for the number one contendership. I did not know. To be fair, I've not seen the match, so that's probably why I didn't know. Saudi Arabia, innit? This is a very colourful selection of people in the ring. Naomi rocking the green, Sasha rocking the blue, Natalya on purple. Shayna Baszler seems to have gone for a red and gold section. Bit of a spike hurricane runner there. Natalya got a little bit sat on, right on the face. Awkward. Natalya trying to get clear. Moxie said I could see Shayna attacking Natty after they lose. I don't see that. It's just a bit early to be separating Shayna and Natalya, especially with Ronda Rousey looking like she's going to do an open challenge. There's not much for her to do. Although I'm pretty sure Shayna's using Ronda's makeup artist. You can tell by the eye makeup. Natalya now starting to look a little bit better, but Sasha, don't let that happen. Shayna's already walked in for no reason. Did she tag? I did not see a tag from Shayna. Megan says, yep, they kept saying during the show the winner of the Women's Chamber would face the winner of Becky versus Lita at WrestleMania. Ah, of course, yeah. I thought Bianca was already champion. Duh, what am I doing? I'm having a moment, guys. I'm having a moment. It's a weird moment, but it's a moment nonetheless. I'd be old in my brain. I'm also old in my hair. I'm old. Boo. Not too long left of SmackDown, to be completely honest. Not too long left at all. We're about to enter the final third. Like I said, my mind might be broken, but it still works. I feel that. Like, that is a mood and a half. Like, not gonna lie, I had a little bit of brain damage in my time. Just had a little bit of brain damage in my time. But we are where we are, and I'm trying my best. I am wondering what match is left. There must be at least one more match over the course of the night. Because this match will only go for another 10 minutes or so. That leaves a half hour. We don't have a main event segment set up. Now, logically, I'd imagine the Usos calling out RK Bro will be our main event segment. But that's only a 10-minute segment. There's going to be at least one more match. Now, I'm suspecting the sort of middle of the hour draw segment, the 2:30 segment, will belong to Drew McIntyre. I can't think who he would wrestle though, unless it's maybe Jinder Mahal. Maybe we have another match for Ricochet. Ricochet versus Shanky again. It's a rematch, but it's a match. Gets him on the card. Ooh, Megan suggesting Kofi versus Pete Dunne. That's an option. I keep forgetting about Fight Night. Keep forgetting about it. Moxley thinks the show is an 8 out of 10. It's pretty damn good. Hector says, I miss the Shayna that was stomping on people's elbows. Good times. Didn't she do that like last week? Pretty sure she did that last week. Oh, cool. So it was advertised, I just didn't see it personally. Fair enough, works for me. Megan says, I've had 2 breakdowns just today. Been the better part of the last 2 days fighting off panic attacks. Sometimes, and I know this may sound like awkward advice, sometimes my advice would be to sort of let them happen. Panic attacks only work on a 20-minute cycle anyway. So as long as you can talk to yourself a little bit, tell yourself, I'm having a panic attack. Sometimes it's better to let the adrenaline burn out. That said, you know your body best. You know your mind best. So you don't have to listen to what I'm talking about. My experience of panic attacks is probably very different to yours. You know best, as it were. I hope you start to feel better going forwards. I hope it's not a big problem for you and the rest of your week. And I hope the weekend's nice and chill. Patrick says, I miss the old days in wrestling. 2011 was my favourite year. They're the best opening themes for Raw and SmackDown. 2011 was not a good year for wrestling though, was it? Like, R-Truth is in the main event with The Miz. Not a great time. Oh, Megan says Drew posted on Instagram a few hours ago he's in Cardiff to do some promo for the UK show. Well, I guess with being beaten the way he was, they're just going to let him sort of fade into the background for a bit. Roman may be there, but Drew McIntyre's not there to challenge. Well, he talked about stomping on people's elbows. Shayna going for the fingers there. Sean says, Naomi said she would love to join the Bloodline, but she wants there to be a storyline for it and not just put into the group. Yeah. A breakup, attack of Sasha Banks, and then going after Ronda. I'll take it. That is a storyline, and a pretty good one. Bloodline have all the championships. Bring in Naomi, go after Ronda. Get them all. Oh, Shayna legitimately just booted Naomi in the face. Like, legitimately, Naomi just got a boot in the face. The ref having a talk about cheating there. Naomi did not quite get the leg extension she was looking for there. So at the moment, it's coming down to Natalya and Naomi, who I believe it was SummerSlam 2017, wrestled for the SmackDown Women's Championship, with Naomi winning it from Natalya. Sean says, I doubt Naomi would beat Ronda even as a Bloodline member. No, I agree, but that could still be the storyline. Fair enough, Megan. Fair enough. Sorry to hear that. Baszler is currently down, but Boss and Glow. Oh, lovely. Lovely reversal there by Natalya. We looked like we were building to a finish, but we're not quite there yet. Perfect. Perfect from Baszler there. Just stopping the bridge. We're now at the point where everyone is together, causing carnage. I mean, that's supposed to be a roll-up. And that's a roll-up win. Naomi pins Natalya to retain the championship for herself and Sasha Banks. To be clear, this tag team is very much about Naomi rather than Sasha Banks. One of the many reasons Sasha Banks basically chose Naomi to be her tag team partner. Natalya is standing separate from Shayna to react. Also, yeah, Naomi definitely got kicked in the nose. Sean says Natalya beat Naomi at SummerSlam in 2017 for the title after Naomi had won the belt in the six-pack challenge at Mania 33. Ah, it was the other way around. My apologies. Drew and Ricochet backstage. They're friends now, and that's nice. Kuro is excited for Gulak time. Patrick says, I tend to have mental health breakdowns. I think they're more common than people realise. And this is a place where we do share that. We're very open about the fact that sometimes it happens to all of us. I've spoken about my mental health issues previously. There's videos out there on my channel about it. Drew Gulak is going to stand up to Gunther. That's not going to work, mate. You're about to get destroyed. Oh, look, he immediately ran into Gunther. Is that a Gunther chant in the Goldberg style? Oh! Oh! Ooh. Ooh, wow. No, but seriously, that was a Gunther chant in the Goldberg style. Oof. Hector says, Tom, did you see that AOP is starting their own promotion? Yes, I did. And I think that's going to suck. Megan says, I still get a little sad / annoyed. There isn't always a mini rave in the crowd for Naomi's theme. And that is the biggest problem in wrestling. The biggest problem in wrestling. No one's raving. No one's rocking. No one's going for it. We have the New Day, which means, of course, Kofi versus Butch coming up. Butch has not been on the most successful route when it comes to the New Day, I tell you that. Well, this looks like it's going to be our main event match going to the final half hour. I'm just going to tweet Gunther versus Goldberg, anybody? And see how that plays out. I promise you, badly. Sean says, if Charlotte had retained against Bayley after she'd turned heel, what do you think would have happened? Nothing. I think Bayley wouldn't have succeeded. I think Bianca Belair probably wouldn't have picked it up, as it were. Patrick says, why is this New Day Unholy Trinity feud still going? Should be over by now. It's probably going to go for the rest of the time, let's be honest. They're just killing time until something better comes along. I think the New Day just waiting to win the tag team championships again. Megan says, I still find it very difficult to talk about my mental health. Even to my own family, very difficult to explain how I feel most of the time. The only thing I can get out is that it feels like my brain is being flooded. Megan, I understand that completely, and you know where I am if at any point you need to talk. There is a benefit here for, like, as although we know each other, there is an element that we are sort of strangers. But you obviously know I'll respect your privacy, as it were. So, as I say, if you ever need any help, you know where I am. Sean says, Cody in the promotion for Money in the Bank. He could win it. He absolutely could. Also, to be fair, he was the reason that AEW is all about gambling for its pay-per-views, and here he is bringing in the gambling metaphors for Money in the Bank. Sean says it'll probably happen until Big E returns. That is a while. That's a while. Sorry, that is a while. It's a while. Big E, of course, did suffer a recent setback in his recovery, but he will make a full recovery. That is still expected. A full recovery is just going to take a little longer. Megan says, I think Cody or Ali is winning Money in the Bank. They are the two most logical options in the men's match for me. Ali would be great. I would rather see him as the US champion for a while, but he could technically cash in for the US championship. Just no one ever does. Cody, for me, makes the most sense. Winning Money in the Bank, immediately announcing that he will challenge Roman at SummerSlam, and then we get to the match in the main event. Make him even more of a big deal. Works for me. Sean says, I'd like to see AJ Styles win Money in the Bank. Styles versus Roman works for me. I would have no issue with that. Styles versus Roman, I believe we last saw in 2016. Right after WrestleMania. And I would happily see it again. It was a 2 pay-per-view feud, and it was glorious. Patrick just says, that chop by Gunther. Yeah, that had to stop and have a breath there, because that sounded like it really, really quite hurt. Megan says he could be US champ and Mr. Money in the Bank. Imagine the promos. I mean, that would be good. Would be very, very good. The thing is, he's automatically a fantastic promo. There is no downside to an Ali promo. He just delivers. And Kura says, no more John Cena recovery speed superstars. John Cena was a freak of nature and we all knew it at the time. We can't pretend otherwise now just because other people aren't managing it. Freak of nature. And I will stand by that to my final breath, I tell you that. Well, I've got a moment, if I can just remind people, if you're currently watching on Twitch, please remember to hit the follow button. That is a massive help to our growth on this channel, and I very much appreciate it. And if you're watching on YouTube, please remember to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. We are getting closer and closer to our continued targets. At the moment, we are sitting at 1,107 subscribers, growing 2 more from earlier on today. It's been a very good week, especially when you factor in the growth that we gained from WrestleMania Backlash. That video has been viewed more than 2,500 times now. And I gotta be honest, I'm pretty happy with that. Very happy with that indeed. Megan says Extreme Rules 2016 was the last time Roman and AJ faced each other 1v1. Indeed, I believe it was... They didn't call it Backlash because the Backlash pay-per-view that year is when AJ won the championship. But the pay-per-view after WrestleMania is where it started, and then it went real hardcore for Extreme Rules. It was just great fun. We are getting shown Drew McIntyre. They're talking about his extended promotional tour to hype up the UK pay-per-view upcoming. I love how they say Cardiff. Cardiff? The New Day still having fun in the ring. So many wrestlers, as I mentioned earlier, just sort of stand around waiting for their cue when they're in the ring. The New Day are not those people. They live to entertain. Good work by Pat McAfee with the use of Fight Night there. We do need to just call them Fight Night. Let's just give up on anything else. They're called Fight Night. It's a great name. Patrick says WWE website has Elias and Ezekiel both on their webpage, so Ezekiel is not Elias. Someone needs to show that to Kevin Owens. People have been trying to show that to Kevin Owens. I don't understand why he's being so biased here. You know? Oh, I've hurt my lip. I don't know how that happened. I've hurt my lip somehow. Interesting. Sean says, I'm going to fantasy book here. One of the participants is laid out for Money in the Bank. They found a replacement but don't say who it is. And when the match is about to start, or midway through, we hear Wild Thing plays Moxley, comes out and wins Money in the Bank as a surprise participant. Well, if you want to fantasy book wrestlers from different promotions, you go right ahead. You go right ahead. If Moxley is available, as I said, the WWE plan to throw every penny they have at the guy. Every penny that they have will be thrown in Jon Moxley's direction. Whether he'll come back or not, not sure. But he'll be a hell of a lot of money. And he'll be guaranteed a championship. Because I promise you, he will walk in, challenge Roman, and take both those belts without a second thought. But it's a travel question. Is there a must-see city in UK a tourist should visit beyond London? There's some beautiful cities, but it's hard to say. I personally would definitely recommend Belfast. I think Belfast is a beautiful city, and you can go to the Giant's Causeway and the like. Beyond that, I don't think anything in particular stands out for me. Like, I like the areas up here, but I'd rather you go to, for example, the Lake District. Definitely don't go to Hull. Hull's awful. Don't go to Hull. But yeah, I'd recommend Belfast. I think Belfast is glorious. That's in Northern Ireland, by the way. Butch is wrestling like Pete Dunne for once. Lots of joint manipulation. Patrick says, Fight Night over and Holy Trinity. I do think that was a throwaway comment. I don't think they've officially named it yet, but they're Fight Night. I've certainly called them Fight Night. What I'm just realising is that Butch actually wears the same thing that Sheamus does. I've actually only just realised he's wearing the exact same gear that Sheamus is. He's just a mini Sheamus. Kind of awkward, to be honest. Pete Dunne Sean was a wrestler in NXT. Don't know where he's gone, but he has gone. I've just realised that Xavier Woods has his trombone back. Trombone half returned. Megan, who I knew would have suggestions, suggests Belfast, Newcastle, Manchester, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Edinburgh. Manchester's a nice city, but it's not must-see for me. But to be fair, I've been there a few times. Sean says, imagine WWE calling Fight Night League of Nations 2.0. To be fair, ain't that many nations represented. There's only really 2 different nations. Megan says, I think Pete Dunne went to help out El Generico. Someone's got to. El Generico's been fighting this battle solo for a long, long time. He's earned a chance to just relax. To just take some time away. To just be himself for once. Ah, Sean. You're going to play that game. I always love when people can't say Birmingham. Birmingham, Alabama. You don't really pronounce the ham. Birmingham. Birmingham. It's not hard. Bristol's quite nice, actually. If I think about it, Bristol's quite nice. Also, Barry Island. Don't go to Barry Island, I'm not serious. But Barry Island. Consider the possibility that Barry Island is glorious. Just consider the possibility. It's all I'm asking. It's all I'm asking. Yeah, definitely we have the OGs, Megan, I tell you that. A whole lot of people who think they know what it is, but we see what we go. Megan says, never been into Bristol, only the train station. Well, I was supposed to be just going to the train station, but I got bored, so I went for a walk. I do that a lot. I very much do that a lot. But to be fair, I've been all over the UK now. I've not been to Wales yet. No, I have been to Wales. I've been to Cardiff. But that's as far as I've been. Patrick says, never heard of Pete Dunne. You don't watch enough NXT, mate. He was big in NXT UK. Held the championship for a long time. And Megan says, Northampton isn't bad. What am I thinking of? Beings of the Sea. Cornwall. Some of the Cornish towns are quite nice as well. Moxie says we have 24 minutes left of the show. Yeah. Yeah, we do. Yeah. Kura says the only place I went to in the UK other than London was Norwich, and that wasn't by choice. Norwich, I keep hearing that Norwich is a great place. I keep hearing wonderful things. Sean says, who's next for Sasha and Naomi? Nikki Cross and Doudrop. Natalya and Shayna Baszler will fade a little bit into the background now. And Megan says, Lake District and Scottish borders are nice as well. What is there on the border? I'm genuinely curious. What is there on the border? Because I know there is stuff, but I've never really been. I took a train straight over it. Didn't even notice the border when I took it. Sean says, more Natalya in NXT? Maybe. There's work still to do. I don't know what you mean by Norwich is just too nice, Kuro. I have no idea. Kofi Kingston is starting his comeback. As I say, Butcher's not had the rub of the green yet. He's lost quite a lot of matches. It's not the greatest start in history. Sorry guys, starting to get a little bit tired here. It is after all 20 to 3 in the morning. Tomorrow's the FA Cup final, but it's also Eurovision. I got the family round to watch Eurovision. I'm a very happy boy. Sean says, I believe they teased a match between her and Nikita one time. Probably. The thing is, Natalya will go down there, she'll say, this person needs a bit of work, and just work with them for a bit. She's not there to draw, she's there to train. Patrick says, who do you think wins the women's breakout tournament? I hope it's Roxanne Perez. It probably will be. I'd found that the most likely scenario. It tends to be someone with a lot of upside who hasn't featured too much so far. Also, I don't actually know the names of many other people, so. Kura says, might just be a me thing, but I almost felt like I had to say hello to everyone we passed by. That is absolutely not true. That's what you do in the north. Northerners are nice. Northerners. Megan says, Hadrian's Wall is a big thing in Cumbria. I do need to see that at some point. That seems an obvious choice. Gretna Green's a bit of a tourist bit. Actual town of Gretna isn't too bad. Jedburgh, Howick and Galashiels is also a nice place to visit for a day or two. Okay. The thing is, a part of this promotion is I also get more holiday. So I do want to go touring a little bit more. That'd be fun. Sean says, I believe Roxanne and versus Nikita will be the finals. That can be fun. The more Roxy we get to see, the happier I'll be. Kofi vs Stomp. This match has been very back and forth. Crowded nicely into it. But there's a bit of a restlessness there. Probably because they know what's going to happen. It's fight night. They're going to cheat. Sheamus with the knee on Xavier Woods. I always get confused when Sheamus does the knee. Because why would you do the knee when you can do the brogue kick? I think Butcher's about to win a match. Butch won a match. Can you imagine a world in which Butch wins a wrestling match? To be clear, not complaining. I am wondering what they're going to call the call his new finisher. Well, call his finisher. It's not new. Sean says everyone thought Cora and Raquel were going to win the Dusty Classic, but Dakota and Wendy won. The favourites don't always win. That's true. I didn't say Roxy was a favourite. I said I mean it's my favourite for the match. For the tournament, I should say. And Sean says Io and Kaylee Ray won the Dusty Classic. Yep. Chad says I hope Mandy gets called back and reunites with Otis. Needs back his love interest. She joins the Academy. They never got their storyline ending. I think they will keep Toxic Attraction and keep Alpha Academy and just have like a loose connection with them. I think she'll take advantage of Otis and slowly turn him face. Simon says, hey Tom, so happy Sasha won. Boss Glow retained the women's tag team titles. A really great, awesome match. Sasha looked so good as always. Yeah, they were never going to lose, mate. They were never going to lose that one. Megan says there's a nice mix of towns and rural areas. Whole south of Scotland is like that. The borders is the eastern side and the western side. Dumfries and Galloway. Well, that's mine. All mine. I'm Queen, but I'm keeping it quiet. Fair enough. We've been calling you the Queen for a while, after all. So we're going to get a recap of the start of the show. Literally just a spoken recap at this point. Here we go. I'd imagine we're going to get the Usos entrance, the final commercial break, and then RK Bros entrance, and just, you know, yeah, we'll wrestle, yeah. And then just that's sort of it. I don't expect this to be a great segment, basically is what I'm trying to say. Randy Orton really looked like he was going to attack Riddle after he won the match. Just stood behind him like, okay, I'm going to RKO you. I'm going to RKO you. I do that to my partner all the time. Sami Zayn is talking to Paul Heyman. He owes the Bloodline an apology. He gave away a unification match. I love it. He may have overstepped his boundaries. He may have. Paul Heyman saying absolutely nothing. He's just a very good combination of people. Synergistic, Paul. I kind of relate to this. I just want to get my respect back. What does Roman say? Paul Heyman, just a very, very simple line. Your tribal chief appreciates you. And up next, the segment they are heralding as the Usos Strike Back. It's not the best title for a segment. Like, it's clearly a play on the Empire Strikes Back, which isn't the worst place to be. The Empire did eventually strike back, let's be fair. Kura says, anyone to chat have travel tips for going to Ireland? Do you mean Northern Ireland or the Republic of Ireland? Simon says, the Celtic Connection, Nikki Cross, Doudrop up next, feud up next on Raw, and Hell in a Cell for Boscolo. Sean says, after all, Toxic Attraction could defeat Sasha and Naomi. I still think they will, to be completely honest. Toxic Attraction need to come up soon for them and for SmackDown, basically. Patrick says Nikki Ash needs to go back to Nikki Cross since Doudrop is telling her to take this more seriously. Works for me. I'd be very happy with that. Simon says, hashtag the crew complaining about Sasha's match time on Twitter. But I was perfectly happy with it. Hashtag the crew complaining that Sasha didn't get enough? No. How could they possibly do that? That's not something that the crew do. They don't complain that Sasha didn't get a 4-hour match and win over like 16 people. No. Megan says, although there is a castle in the Borders called Floor's Castle, seat of the Duke of Roxburgh, which is funny considering that's my last name. It's led to some fun when we signed guest books there. Oh, I see. I like that. I like that. Sean says, Finn, this is leaning to Sami versus Roman? Honestly, probably not. I think it'll get a brief payoff, but not much of a payoff. I think I'm more likely to see it build to Roman Nakamura, but even then, I'm not sure. Simon, Drew is not there. So Drew will not be in the main event segment. He's not on site. Megan says, they're a week too late for Star Wars Day and about 2 weeks too early for Obi-Wan. I don't understand. I don't understand. Patrick says, what if Sami Zayn is secretly trying to sabotage the bloodline? Sorry if I had bad spelling, you say, after you could have just not changed it. I definitely don't think he's sabotaging anyone. That's really not his play. Oh, the Strikes Back line. Get you, Megan. Get you, Megan. Thank you. Sean says, can the crew ever be happy? Probably not. Like, I can't speak for the crew in any way, shape or form. No individual can. But I know the MO of the crew is really quite simple. Sasha needs everything. She needs it now. She needs it now. She needs it now. Also, you need to fix everything you've already done where she didn't have everything the entire time. If she has less than everything, people will be mad, bro. And Bailey says, don't speak ill of the crew. They take no prisoners. I think I'm okay to do it now. If I do it on Twitter, I get all sorts of crap. But if I do it now during a live stream that, let's face it, none of them are going to watch, I think I'm okay. Yeah, Simon there is part of hashtag the crew, but he's happy. And that's a very different situation. I'm okay with that. Megan says, Drew's not even in the US, he's on the fun side of the Atlantic. He's over in Wales, guys, over in Wales. Over in Wales. We have 10 minutes left for the Usos to strike back. We are hearing the entrance theme of the tribal chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns himself. Now, I'd imagine he may have something to say about the recent rumours around him. Or his whole entrance takes so long that the show just ends. Megan says, the Welsh are lovely people. Always had fun times in their company. Me too. Absolutely me too. Sean says the title isn't unified if both titles are active. One title needs to be deactivated for it to be unification. Yeah, so it's not a unified title. It is two separate championships. Which is exactly what I said weeks before the actual match happened. And once again, it didn't get picked up anywhere. Didn't get picked up anywhere. And yet here we are. Patrick says, can the IWC ever be happy? No, they always complain. Well, not all of them, certainly. That's the thing. You're never going to please everyone. And the most vocal critics, there's no point trying to please. I mean, you can say that if you want, Simon. It can be your champion. It doesn't change the fact that Roman is the top guy in wrestling. Megan says Roman's wearing the WWE Championship and not the Universal one. Switching it up, indeed. Not playing favourites. Not playing favourites this time. Also, I think the WWE Championship suits that t-shirt better. Just suits the God Mode t-shirt a little better. Okay, he said something to the camera. I believe he just said mine, and I melted a little bit. Sean says Roman isn't a unified champion, he's a double champion. If they ever did deactivate one of the titles, which one would it be? They have no plans to deactivate one of the championships. And in which case it would be a case-by-case basis anyway. So, no idea. He has genuinely taken so long to get to the ring that there's going to be no striking back. I suspect what's actually going to happen here is we're just going to cut to something backstage where it's like, oh, we already beat up RK Bro off camera. Sells, mate. Do-do, do-do, do-do. Megan believes if they ever did get rid of one of them, it would be the Universal. The WWE title has a longer and more prestigious history that they can keep profiting from. True, and it's one of those where whatever the new championship would be, they would want to get the WWE World Championship in there rather than Universe. Yes, Kuro, Roman could defend one title over the other. He hasn't had any title defenses yet, but he certainly could defend one over the other. Simon prefers Seth/Mox to Roman. Personally enjoyed the mixed title run a lot more than Roman's Universal title run. Mox's AEW title run more than Roman's Universal title run. I disagree. I quite like Mox's AEW title run. This is next level though for me. Roman lifting both championships. The Usos right behind, doing the same with their tag team titles. Paul Heyman putting his fist in the air. Next up, of course, the Raw tag team titles and an undisputed bloodline. Sean says, don't come at me, Roman fans, but am I the only one that's tired of his reign? I think it's time for a new champion. I don't think he's going to be champion much longer. I do think it's time for a new champion, but I don't think he's got many challenges lined up that he hasn't already squashed. Sorry, smashed. I don't think there's many people left in the world that Roman hasn't smashed, is what I'm trying to say. Paul Heyman holding both championships and looking smug as all hell. There are boos, but there's also a Roman chant. Roman Reigns basically getting the same reception he's always got. Simon says, what was your thoughts on the classic Botchamania Barbed Wire Death Bomb AEW death match between Mox and Omega last year? The match was alright. The match was alright. The explosion is what everyone focuses on, but the match was alright. Corey says, could a ladder match happen where both titles are up and one person wins one and someone else wins the other? Yeah. That is a possibility. Rob, how you doing, mate? Says, Blue, nailed it. Great job, Si. Literally, as soon as I finished the show, he'd already emailed this to me. So thanks, Robs. You made this happen. Mega says, I'm a Roman fan, but I don't see him having both titles for much longer. If he still has them both by the time we get to Cardiff, I'll be shocked. Me too. I suspect he'll lose the first one at SummerSlam. He did smash John Cena. He did smash Brock Lesnar as well. Roman smashes everyone. Roman has realised that there is no one left to challenge him. He has smashed them all. Sean says, is it possible the reports of Roman being champion for another year could be true? Yeah, it's possible. It's that simple. Anything is possible. The WWE have a habit of always changing their minds, which means that reports like that, completely pointless. Completely pointless. They might be true. They might not be. The person reporting them knows they might be true. They might not be. But they still report them as exclusives. Megan says, if Cody gets the case, he's calling his shot ahead of time for SummerSlam's main event. I agree wholeheartedly. I think it will be Cody. Now, what we've got right now is a a promo extremely similar to 2 weeks after WrestleMania, when Roman Reigns looks at the Usos and says, "Go get the Raw Tag Team Championships." RK Bro, of course, still there, and coming down to the ring to get involved. Megan says, quick side note, who do you have winning Eurovision? I'm really not sure. I haven't listened to the songs. I've only listened to the UK song, so that when I watch the show, it's new, it's fresh, it's exciting. So I'm honestly not sure. Also, this will be the first live Eurovision for an 11-year-old child that I have sort of acquired because I'm dating her mother. I'm very excited to get the opportunity to see it through a child's eyes again. Randy Orton defending John Cena. Simon says, do you see Orton breaking Flair's world title record? No. I think he could, and I think he'd be Ric Flair's choice. But I don't see it. Okay, this is really awkward. Randy Orton came in, hit us with fire, and then Matt Riddle started rambling and just wandering away. You're draining the heat out of this, Matt Riddle. Yep, Randy is on 14 world titles. Doesn't mean he's going to do it. Charlotte Flair will break Ric Flair's record. Sean says, who breaks Jericho's IC title record? The Miz. Only one even close. Hector says, Randy defending Cena is good stuff considering how many times they've wrestled. The respect is there. I would be stunned if we got a top 5, Megan. The UK song is good. It's the first time in a long time. But we're still the UK. I don't think people want to vote for us. I'm excited for Rasmus. I've not seen them in a long time. Again, fire by Randy. Sean says, I believe Dolph is the next close to 6 IC title reigns. He ain't winning championships again. We are on once again for the Unified Tag Team Championship match. You don't have time for tonight. So there's going to be a unification match next week. Somehow I don't think so. Roman recognises his cue to hold up both championships. Simon wants Randy versus Roman. Me too. Oh, Matt Riddle just attacked Roman. Oh, the match is happening. Roman and Riddle is on. Okay, there's the fire. There's the fire. That is going to cost him. Simon says, Meltzer said they were not unifying them. They still might not. Let's not call it just yet. Sean says, I don't see it happening next week. Neither do I. I see that being pay-per-view at the very least. I'm still saying Undisputed Bloodline. I even get people spoiler warning about it. And the show is over. SmackDown has ended. And I've got to say, I'm going to give a bit of a brief recap here, because I know, well, no, Rampage isn't on, so I'm just going to give a bit of a brief recap of what we've seen, because I think this was a pretty good SmackDown. I genuinely do. I think what we had was a good show. We started with a pretty hot match. Sami Zayn and Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle and Randy Orton really held the show together, as usual recently. The feud between RK Bru, so basically is why that happened. between RK Bro and the Usos is the key factor going into basically the rest of the season until about SummerSlam time. And that really did hold it all together, but also Raquel Rodriguez had a good showing in her first outing. Ronda Rousey had a threatening challenger for once. It was brief, but it was a challenge. There was some sort of threat actually in play. Ahead of that, we had a tag team championship match, Sasha and Naomi, a bit by the books, to be honest. Exactly what we expected. Not tremendous fare, nothing particularly exciting, but it did happen. We wanted it to happen, so it happened. Drew Gulak got a big chop. Gunther, as we know, has probably the biggest chopper in the world. We had more of Kofi Kingston and Butch actually picking up a win over the former WWE champion, which admittedly when it comes to Kofi Kingston doesn't mean a lot, because even the WWE can't seem to remember that he's a former WWE champion, so they just all sort of seem to move on as if it's never actually happened. Beyond that, our final segment started hot with Randy. Matt Riddle did drain some energy from it, but he did get in the last hit. He did get in the last laugh. Certainly a much better last laugh than Madcap Moss got. Looking ahead to Hell in a Cell, I can see the unification match happening at Hell in a Cell. I can see a Madcap Moss Baron Corbin rematch. I don't see Ronda Rousey featuring. In fact, I don't see any women from SmackDown other than maybe the tag team champions, the women's tag team champions featuring. I think Hell in a Cell, it's going to be more of a Raw affair than a SmackDown affair. Now, I'm going to wrap that up. I'm looking at going live on Sunday. We should still have our normal Sunday night show, but I'm also looking at going live for a gaming stream on Twitch. That gaming stream will be Twitch and Colohue Gaming exclusive, so it will not take place on this YouTube channel to keep that separate, but it will take place on the Twitch channel. So if you haven't followed on Twitch and you'd like to check that out, by all means pop on over. I will be formally launching Colohue Gaming on Sunday if everything goes to plan. So please keep an eye out for that. In the meantime though, thank you everyone for joining me tonight. Thank you everyone for giving me the time of day. I hope everyone's had an absolutely fantastic night. But in the meantime, all I've got to say, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic. And I'll see you all very, very soon.